Welcome to Basic Brewing Radio for Thursday, July 31st, 2014. I'm James Spencer. Here at Basic Brewing Radio, we're all about home brewing. This week, our friend Bob Stempski shares his experiment in aging no-chill wort over an extended period of time. Will it make a difference in the beer? Will it kill us? Spoiler alert, it didn't kill us. If you're new to home brewing or would like to get into the hobby for the first time, check out our website, basicbrewing.com, where you can find archives of our audio and video podcasts and our DVDs to walk you through basic and more advanced brewing techniques. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm Basic Brewing, all one word. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/basicbrewing.james. Our show page on Facebook is at facebook.com/basicbrewing. We're on the Google Plus, too. Thanks to everybody clicking on the Amazon.com associate link on our basicbrewing.com site. You know how that works. Whenever you think of Amazon shopping, go to our website first, basicbrewing.com. Click on our Amazon ad. That will take you to Amazon, where you will shop as you normally do. You won't be paying any extra, but you'll be helping to support this show. We greatly appreciate your support. We also have associate links for Brew Your Own Magazine and the American Homebrewers Association on our site as well. We've got Basic Brewing iPhone, Android, and Windows apps. We're on the BlackBerry podcast. Are there still Blackberries out there? And we're on Stitcher. Check out our brewer's logbook at basicbrewingshop.com. In the front is a blank calendar that you can use to track your fermentations and plan your brews so that even though it is almost at the end of, well, I guess it is at the end of July, you still have 12 months of calendar that you can use to track your brews. And there's a room in the back to log the details of up to 50 batches. If you want to put a tip in our tip jar, some coinage in our guitar case, you can go to basicbrewing.com/support. Thanks to everybody who's done so already. For a time, just a little time more, you can protect your precious beer with one of our growler bags. There aren't very many of those left. Check those out at basicbrewingshop.com. For a limited time, you can get a free Basic Brewing bottle opener with the purchase of any of our DVD combos. Let's jump right into the mailbag, shall we? Mark from Kansas City writes, I've been homebrewing for about a year now, and I have about 6 batches under my belt. I recently got engaged, congratulations, and my fiancé is luckily very supportive of my hobby. We both thought it would be neat and unique to supply the beer for our own wedding. Not only would it save money, but I'd be able to share my brew with all of our family, or friends and family. Luckily, my side of the family is pretty adventurous with their beer tastes and prefers craft beer, but her side tends to prefer the lighter lagers of the big-name companies. I'd like to brew 2 or 3 different styles. Do you have any recommendations for crossover beers that those who are used to drinking light lagers might also enjoy? And Mark says, I'm thinking of doing something like a Belgian wit beer. That sounds good. And a cider to satisfy the lighter tastes, in addition to a brown or amber ale and a stout. Mark says, luckily I have over a year to figure it all out, so I'm open to any suggestions you might have. Well, that sounds like fun. Congratulations on the impending nuptials. I suggest a cream ale. According to the Beer Judge Certification Program, the BJCP, this is, quote, an ale version of the American lager style, produced by ale brewers to compete with lager brewers in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states. Coincidentally, or maybe not so coincidentally, I brewed my take on the cream ale style for an episode of Basic Brewing Video that Steve and I are going to shoot this week. My version has 10 pounds or 4.5 kilograms of American two-row, 1 pound or 0.45 kilograms of flaked maize, which is corn, 2 ounces or 56 grams of Czech Saz pellets for 60 minutes, and 1 ounce or 28 grams of Czech Saz at flame out. And I pitched with Safale USO5, of course. The good thing about using flaked maize is that you don't have to do a cereal mash. You can throw it right into the mash tun, and it's pre-gelatinized, so it should work very well there. Mine came out pretty tasty. It's kind of a light flavor, as you might expect. Some suggest to lighten it up even more, use some sugar in the beer to lighten it up. So I may try that next time, but this one's pretty light tasting already. It came out at 6% ABV, and my light lager friends like it. So there you go. I bottled part of this cream ale batch in the Miller Lite 16-ounce aluminum bottles, and this is the second time that I've done that. The reason I did that is I have a camping trip coming up, so that I thought that it'd be perfect for that, where you don't want to be near the water with glass. Also, I wanted to test if the original aluminum bottles that I used the first time were still safe to package in, and so far no problems. The bottles have a screw top that seals very well, and so far the biggest challenges have been not bending those caps, and preventing your friends from bending those caps, playing with them after they open the bottles. And when you fill the bottles, it's a little bit more difficult than glass, since you can't see the level as clearly as when you're filling with glass. But anyway, and the biggest challenge, I guess, is to get to acquire those aluminum bottles to begin with. So if you have a friend who drinks Miller Lite, or as Tom Brokaw would say, Miller Lite, and if they have those bottles, you might suggest that they rinse them out thoroughly and then donate them to your homebrew cause. So anyway, that's my suggestion for a wedding beer, cream ale. If you have any suggestions for a good wedding beer, kind of a crossover beer, let me know. Belgian Blonde would be good, too. We have a sponsor this week. You know that Basic Brewing Radio's one great way to stay in touch with all things home brewing. Another great way to learn more about brewing better beer, joining the American Homebrewers Association. More than 43,000 members rely on the AHA for great benefits like events, web resources, Zymergy magazine, and money-saving AHA member deals. As a not-for-profit organization, the AHA relies on members to support their work to promote, protect, and grow the homebrewing hobby. Whether you're an expert homebrewer or just getting started, visit homebrewersassociation.org to join today. Just like me. I've been a member for a long time. Okay, let's go back in time to the week surrounding the National Homebrewers Conference in Grand Rapids, Michigan. We were very happy, as usual, to see Bob Stempski. We'd be happy to see him if he didn't have cheese curds and the little sausages, but but he had an experiment. He had a follow-up experiment from last year of aging wort in a no-chill container to see what the effects would be. Here we are in Bob Stempski's room, because there's cheese curds and little sausages. And say hi, Bob.
Hi, Bob.
Everybody playing at home, you know what to do. Okay, and then we have Steve Wilkes.
Hi, Bob.
Hi.
And Andy Sparks.
Hey, Bob.
Hey.
And the listeners playing the game are already in the bag. All right. So we got together last time, Bob, and we did an experiment on no chill, right?
Yes.
And it was, what was the premise last time? I don't remember.
I think it was, if I remember right, it was a 4-month-old fermentation and a fresh fermentation, and we were trying to see if there was a difference in the taste.
And this time, what have we got?
I got a 8-month, 4-month, and one brewed last May, identical recipes, and it'd be interesting to find out what the hops have done, because the hops are, it's fairly hoppy. I think there's 6 ounces in there, and common knowledge among brewers is that the IBUs drop, or the bitterness drops, or the hop flavor drops over time. And last time when we did it, we didn't find that. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of surprising to me. So I just thought, well, let's try stretching it out a little bit.
Yeah, so to clarify, you have done no-chill brewing, which is where you don't chill the wort. You just run it off into a sanitized plastic container and push the air out and seal it and just let it cool on its own. And generally, the concept is to brew it the next day, or to ferment it the next day or two. But you have done you've kept the beer in the cube for 8 months, another one for 4 months, and then a fresher one. And then did you pitch the yeast in all three at the same time?
Yeah, I had quite a project because with 3 5-gallon batches, I wanted to do everything equal, and actually I did. I mean, I never hit temperatures properly, but I did, and I'm very tickled with that. But yeah, what I did is I made a big yeast starter. I used 2 packets of yeast, made a big starter over a couple of days, built it up, and then I transferred the beers from the no-chill containers into carboys, and then I added the wort, and I tried to put a little bit in each time so that I didn't give one end of it. You know, I really tried to do this up to snuff. And they all took off within a day, and they all fermented about the same length of time. So it was a real good fermentation. I had no problems. I used 1968, the Y yeast. It's very, very clean. I like it.
And last time, if you guys remember, we tasted the 4-month-old beer and then the fresh beer, and we anticipated that there would be a difference that we could discern quite easily, but it was a lot harder than we thought.
It sure was. I was quite surprised. I expected to have more of a diminished hop character, and it wasn't the case.
Yeah, it was really hard to tell the two beers apart. I think we decided there was a little difference, but it wasn't enough to matter.
And so I guess since then we have we've had a little discussion. Chris Colby came out with an article on beerandwinejournal.com that he was afraid that the conditions would be present for botulism to take hold in the stored wort if you were to store it for an extended period of time. And he cited a lot of FDA and USDA and government documents, and also cited the fact that there had been some prison contamination with botulism because of a pruneau that was made in prison. Turns out that there were potatoes in that pruneau, but and so following that, we had a discussion with Patrick Hollindale down under in Australia, and he had some questions about the whole situation. In particular, I think he was talking about the sugar content and whether that would deter botulism. So I wrote to the Centers for Disease Control, and I said, who can you refer me to answer these questions? Is there a danger of botulism being developed in wort stored under these anaerobic conditions for an extended period of time? And the two scientists, one from the FDA, I believe, and one from the University of Georgia, both said that the conditions were such that if botulism were to get introduced somehow into this wort, that there was a danger that it could take hold and actually produce the botulinum toxin. So, according to the experts from the government, there is a chance that if botulism got in the stored wort, that it would thrive and it would produce this botulism poison. That since you are not reheating this wort, it would not have a chance to be denatured, and it would be the beer would then be toxic. So, what do you think about that, Bob?
Oh, I think they're correct. There's no doubt about it. It could happen. It hasn't yet, and I don't want to be the first, but normally within a day or two, probably 98% of the time, I do it the next day, and there's no problem there. The few times that I've had to wait a week or two, I don't see a problem with that either. The chances of somebody doing it for 8-9 months, I would think, like I did, I was totally scrupulous in cleaning and everything, and used up a lot of Star San on that baby, and BBW and everything else I could do. And when I stored it, I had no no qualms about it. I've done it before, and as we know, the Australians have been doing it for years. They've never had a bit of problem. So it's a small chance. There's probably a better chance you're going to lose your life breaking a glass carboy and bleeding to death than this. But they're all right. It could happen, and if it happens to me someday, well, I'll be the first to admit I was wrong.
It'll be your epitaph. But I kind of look at it like, I did the interview with the guy from the propane accessory or the propane association, and he said, don't use your propane burner inside your garage because there is a chance that the propane cylinder might off gas and that might ignite and you burn your house down. Now, after that interview, did it change anybody's mind on whether they're going to brew in the garage? Probably not. But as a kind of a journalist, I think that it's sort of my responsibility to put that out there and let people decide what they are comfortable with. I mean, I don't know if you guys, Andy or Steve, if you've got anything to add to that, but.
Based on the conditions you're setting up, I can certainly see that the chance of it would form. The fact that you're putting it in hot, it really seems like they're doing a lot of things to mitigate the opportunity for that to form. So I think you have to take. Everybody takes risks in this life, and if this is what you want to do, and then you're taking a little risk, but you're responsible for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so with that disclaimer out of the way, I think that even if this isn't a standard practice, there is still something to be learned. If the character of hops in this stored unfermented wort does not change over time as a hoppy beer would, I think that there's some interesting things to think about there. Does the fact that it's not exposed to oxygen over that time, or the hop's not oxidizing and changing, is that the factor? Or we think of the IBUs from hops settling out in fermented beers that are stored for a long period of time. So if we don't see a change or a difference between these three beers, is there something else going on? So I think it's at least a good thought experiment.
Certainly. I'm looking forward to trying the beers, but I'm going to watch his face very closely after he sips his beers and see if he starts to get paralyzed or, if he looks like he's had a stroke, then I probably won't have any of mine.
Well, you've been tasting these at home, so.
Yeah, I drank the unfermented wort when I transferred it, and then when I put it in the fermenter, I had another glass, and then after I carbonated, and since then I've had another. So I've had like 5 doses, and I'm still kicking.
That's a side effect. So do you want to talk about the recipe?
Yeah, I got it. I got it here. It's pretty simple. It's 8 pounds of common two-row, a pound of carapils or any dextrin malt, and a half a pound of caramel 20. So there isn't much in there. What I did is I put in 1 ounce or 28 grams of Simcoe first wort hop, and I put it loose in the pot. And then I put in my hop spider at 10 minutes, 5 minutes, and at flame out. And I let it sit for 5 minutes, and then I pulled the hop sack out and squeezed it a little bit. And that was it. And I did all 3 of them. They all came out pretty much. The ORG was about 1050, final gravity about 1010, so it's about 4.2. But math is not my highlight there. So I had decent attenuation. The only problem that I saw is that my pH was a little high the first time, and so I made it high the rest of the time. It was a 6.0 or 6 instead of a 5.4. So I didn't have much trouble with that. And let's see, I think it was 153 temperature. I brewed the first one in September of 2013 and February of 2014, and then May. So they weren't in the fermenter that long, 16 days. It was kind of short. I was kind of behind time as usual. And then I used prime dose to carbonate them. I tried that. So that's how it is.
And that prime dose is a little capsule that's half yeast, or that's got yeast and priming sugar in it?
Yeah, and it's supposed to be, I guess, they like it for competitions and so on, so that you have exact amount. I mean, you can use the little pellets in that, but I tell you, I have a little trouble doing that because my hands get wet, and then my fingers are sticking to them, and then I'm worried about if there's any dirt on my hands that gets on there, blah, blah, blah. So I just thought I'd try them, and they seem to work fine.
Cool. So I guess the only thing left to do is to sample. So what we'll do is, and can you set up a blind tasting like we did last time, or a blind tasting? So we won't know which is which, and we'll pause the recording, and we will do the tasting. We'll come back and we'll discuss the results. Okay, we're back. Bob gave us 3 samples, and then he labeled them with codes. The first one he gave us was ISM. The second one was UL. And the third one was BOT. Steve was the first to realize that that's BOT, UL, ISM. It spells botulism.
All those years of training in the media.
But you're a whiz at cryptoquote. So
I used to work the jumble.
Yeah, but there was a quite apparent difference in the appearance of these.
Yeah, the bot beer is really much light. It's like a light pale ale, almost like a Pilsner, or a Helles style beer.
Yeah.
The other two look like a kind of a copper color or brown colored, English style pale ale or American pale ale. In my opinion, the bot beer also tastes a little lighter and a little less hoppy. The UL and the ISM beers are so close together that I can't tell any difference really. Though sometimes I think the ISM beer is a little softer, but I think that's just me trying to force a decision.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'll be honest. The first one, the BOT beer, definitely clearly looks different. But as I smelled them and as I tasted through them, I struggled to find any real difference between them. Maybe my nose is a little stuffy and I'm not really getting enough aromatics to help my flavor, my palate to discern the differences. But for me, if I was blindfolded, I'd struggle to tell that these were not all the same beer, probably.
Now, I think that the UL and the ISM beers are very similar. In fact, in appearance and in flavor and all the other characteristics, I don't know that I could tell them apart. But the BOT beer obviously is lighter in appearance, and I thought that the appearance might have been tricking me into thinking something, so I closed my eyes and I had Steve hand me the beers out of order, and I tasted them, and I determined that the second beer that he handed me, which was the BOT beer, was less bitter. So I don't know what magnitude it's less bitter, but to me it is a bit less bitter. But they're all tasty beers.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing. I don't find any defects. Do you?
No, there wasn't any flaws in it at all. Just for me, I was really struggling to find a discernible difference between them. I was hoping one would stand out flavor and aroma-wise, and the only thing that stands out is, for me anyway, really dramatically, is the color difference, which is kind of shocking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I just have to go back to what I said earlier. I thought the lighter colored beer, the bot beer, was somewhat less, kind of everything. It just didn't seem to have as much backbone. It's a nice beer, but I just mean compared to the other two, it just seems to be less. So I don't know what that means, but that's my perception.
Okay, Bob, what's the what's the verdict?
The verdict is they are in the order that they're spelled. The BOT beer, the light one, was the one I brewed last September. So we lost color, and the other ones are in order also. So September is Bot, January is Ull, and then Ism is the one I did just recently in May of this year.
Wow.
So they are, in order.
Now you are sure that you use the same ingredients on the BOT beer?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no question. I just had one. I bought a big new bag and I used it for everything.
And I'll post a picture on our Facebook page, and so that you can see the difference. But it's a different color beer. Was the one that's 8 months old kept? I mean, were these beers kept at a constant temperature that whole time?
The Bot beer. It's
You're all happy with yourself.
Yeah, the Bot beer sat in my spare bedroom, and I think it stayed between 52 and 56 for the whole period. Maybe it dipped down real in the cold winter. It maybe dipped down a little bit, but a few degrees. But it was pretty steady. The other two, they were January and May, so they were in my office, and that I keep that at 70. So maybe there's a slight difference there. But otherwise, they were pretty much identical in everything.
Wow.
Well, what about the harshness of the bitterness of the hops? Did you guys pick out where it was lighter? The botulism beer, the Bot beer, when it was actually less harsh.
To me, yes. The Bot beer, which is the lightly colored beer, I think has less hop bitterness, less malt backbone. It's just less beer. It's not as, I don't get as much hop character. I don't get as much malt character. It just seems to be a different beer. But it's really odd because you can tell it's the exact same. You can tell the hops are the same hops. I mean, there isn't any difference in. I can't even really explain it. It's just like instead of eating the whole 16-ounce steak, you only ate 10 ounces. It's like it's just not as much of the same thing. Boy, that's inarticulate, but
No, you can wrap your head around that. To me, it's the kind of back of the tongue sharpness as at the end of the swallow. There's just less bite to me, but it's not. It is fairly to me. It's fairly close. I guess we're in between here. Steve thinks it's a radical difference or a fairly radical difference, and I'm kind of in between, where I can detect a difference. I did it blind, but it's not not that easy to. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. One thing I'm wondering is, was there a day when the color dropped out of the Bot beer? I mean,
yeah.
When you think about it, you would, if that's what's happening, is that some color component is simply settling out at some point, you would expect the UL beer to be slightly lighter than the other beer, and it doesn't seem that. It seems like there must be some point at which it dropped off and changed color, right? But what is that? And is there 6 months, 8 months, 10 months? I'm not sure. It's weird.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you were roasting grains. We did our roasting experiment where we put grain in the oven at a certain temperature for, a certain amount of time, and we took out some grain at different times, and there was a point where it was light, and then the Maillard reaction happened, and it's like, oh, it's dark. It's like bread, toast, So I know what you mean. Is there at some point in time, some where the color just says, done, but beer doesn't change color over time, does it? I mean, you would think that beer would, if it were oxidized, it would get darker.
Dark, right?
Yeah, you would, but maybe there's something into that. I mean, with the fact that it did drop off, I mean, it's really obvious. I was shocked when I poured them. I thought, oh, what the heck is this? And I got 2 bottles and had some more bottles. I was going to pop those too. It's just shocking. Maybe there was a color component that dropped out after a certain length of time, because it just sat there in the corner and nobody moved it. It never was touched, so it sank. In fact, when I siphoned that one, all 3, I guess, really, they were all perfectly clear. But I didn't notice any different then. But I was so busy doing 15 gallons of beer that I don't think I really noticed any difference. But I'm shocked. I'm shocked.
It's unusual. I don't guess you noticed if the sediment at the bottom of that cube were any darker than the other 2, or
no, it was opaque. I couldn't see in there, and I was so busy cleaning and everything. It was a mess. No, I'd never do that again. That is too much work. Well, I'm trying to bottle these things. I got 3 of them there, and I'm trying to bottle just 6 or 8 or 10, and I'm cleaning them, and I do different caps, and then I'm marking the bottles, and then I got to pull that stuff away, and I got to do it again and again. I got to wash and sanitize everything so I didn't have any cross contaminations. Never again.
These are rare beers now.
Yeah.
Interesting. I don't know what else to say. It's but of course, in this test, storing the wort, unfermented wort, in a cube, in the absence of oxygen for 8 months, as opposed to 4 months, or brewing it fresh, apparently, unless there's something went wacky in the process somewhere, it affects the color of the beer. You get a lighter beer.
And Steve and you, I think both seem to think it's softer, or doesn't have quite as much bitterness. So it looks like maybe more than one thing settled out of this beer. So interesting.
Yeah.
So would you say if you went to a tavern and you had the bot beer, that you would say there was anything odd about it or anything, or just having it in the store, you just say that's just the beer. No. It's kind of light in color.
Yeah, it's just a beer. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the beer at all. It's not a value judgment in that sense. It's just that it's not like the others. Mm-hmm. And so I think that the thesis is that we would be able to brew these beers, store them over time, and that you would get the same product, whether it's 8 months old, 4 months old, or a month old. And at least to my palate and my eyes, that's not the case. But that's not a value judgment on the quality of the beer.
Yeah, if you had just given me a pint of that beer, I wouldn't say, "Ooh, this is old," or "Ooh, this is stale," or "Ooh, this is nasty." I would say, "Oh, well, that's kind of a blonde ale." That's a good beer. There's nothing wrong with it. It's tasty. It seems to be balanced. Yeah. But yeah, nothing wrong with it. It's just different.
No, but in a way, it might say that there is kind of a point at which you should probably brew while it's still got all its components, all its flavor bits in there, right, before anything starts to drop away, because it will be a little different. Right. And maybe in a different kind of beer, it might be more dramatic. Yeah. Beer with more kind of stuff, a big, higher gravity beer, stuff with, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the other, remind me about the hops again. They're Amarillo and Simcoe, is that right?
Yes. Simcoe was... better double check here. Yeah. Simcoe, I put in first wort hops, and I just put it loose in the boil. I usually do that for the first wort hopping, and then the other ones were in the hop sack or in the spider. So I pulled them before they went into the cube, because I didn't want to put any hops in the cube, because that, I don't know, I would kind of screw things up. Although a lot of people do that when they're doing a short beer, they just put the hops right in the cube, put the wort on top of it, seal it, and there you go. But yeah.
Well, the reason I asked that's because the one thing that I was a little bit surprised about in the hop character was I didn't get that resiny just the resin, pine, citrusy sort of thing as much as I was expecting. So I was just expecting a different profile from the hops. They're good and hoppy. They're plenty hoppy. But I just didn't get that kind of grapefruit thing that I was expecting when I heard the hops described.
I'm tasting again. Actually, I'd drink the beer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. I wouldn't go to bed for eating crackers.
I'd drink the old beer if Bob had it in enough advance that I knew it wasn't going to kill me.
Yeah.
But it pairs well with cheese curds. So
That's what really counts.
Well, this has been fun. I'd be interested if anybody else tries something like this. If you have a recipe that you have in a cube somewhere sitting on a shelf, if you want to duplicate that recipe and brew a fresh one and compare the results, if you see something similar, if you don't see something similar, let us know. It's all about repeatability. So fun again. Good to see you in person again, Bob.
Good to see you, gentlemen.
Well, thanks again to Bob and Steve and Andy, of course. Very interesting results. Is it a fluke or a fact? If you've done something similar in aging no-chill wort for a long time, let me know whether you've seen this result or not. It was weird that the beer would get lighter over time instead of getting darker over time. Either way, it was a lot of fun. Lots more coming up from Grand Rapids. By my count, we've got 3 more shows on tap from there, all of them great stuff, including an experiment dealing with Michigan water from different sources. Tim Lieber comes back on to share some awesome meads and an experiment with heating must and not heating must, and an experiment with Clarity Firm, which if you were trying to go gluten-free, it was a very interesting experience. So anyway, stay tuned over the next weeks. In the meantime, if you have brewing questions, show suggestions, or just want to say howdy, write to James at basicbrewing.com, or just fill out the contact form on basicbrewing.com, and please don't forget to tell us where you're from. You'll find our bottle openers on our shop. Our Basic Brewing growler bags are available. Protect your precious homebrew and craft beers. You take it from place to place. Check out our support link where you can throw a couple of bucks into the tip jar by subscribing financially to our podcasts. Be sure to check out our DVDs, Extract Brewing and Partial Mashing, Stepping into All Grain, Low-Tech Lagering and Decoction Mashing, and Introduction to Wine Kits. You can find them all on our site, along with combo deals to save you a few bucks if you want to buy more than one DVD at a time. And again, you get a free bottle opener included with any of our DVD combos. Quite the deal. You can check out our Basic Brewing shirts in the store, too. Our logbooks are in the store. Keep track of up to 50 batches of beer. You can see a listing of the fine folks across the country who sell our DVDs on basicbrewing.com, and if there isn't a vendor in your area, you can order them online in our online shop at basicbrewingshop.com. Thanks to everybody who's continued to click on our Amazon.com link. We appreciate the support there. Our featured products this week that were purchased through the link are Plants vs. Zombies, Garden Warfare, Online Game Code, and Solid Doodles SD 3DP4 3D printer. Cool. Along with a bunch of 3D printer supplies. Thanks again, everybody, and remember, I can't tell who bought what, so no worries there. Just click on the Amazon.com logo on our site the next time you feel like Amazon shopping. We greatly appreciate your support. Don't forget you can also join the American Homebrewers Association and subscribe to Brew Your Own magazine through the associate links on basicbrewing.com. I got some messages from people who said that they heard the Hank Hill impression last week because they listened all the way to the end, just as a poll. And I've been doing it. I've been playing with another impression. It's Hank Hill doing his impression of Jerry Seinfeld. What is up with the charcoal? You say it's brand new, but it's already burnt when you get it in the bag. Charcoal, there's no coal in it. They should call it charwood. Bobby? I'll work on that. That's all until next time, thankfully. Until then, thanks for listening. I'm James Spencer. Production help for Basic Brewing Radio, and our website is provided by Kelly Dodson. Basic Brewing Radio is a production of Active Voicing. We'll talk to you next time, everybody. So long.